My name is Alex Thompson. I'm 42. The last time my family laid eyes on me, I was supposedly flunking out of university with a degree in psychology that no one believed was worth the parchment it was printed on. That was 18 years ago. Tonight, they are about to discover precisely what I've been occupied with ever since. The rehearsal dinner was the exact affair my sister Chloe had always envisioned. Gilded fixtures shed a warm glow on tables draped in fine linen. The main hall of the city's most exclusive club was packed with Boston's social luminaries. Chloe had forever been the celebrated child, the one who wed the prosperous financier, resided in the proper zip code, and never caused our parents a moment of shame at social functions. I lingered near the bar, nursing a mineral water, observing my family navigate the room with the practiced ease of the social aspirants they had always been. My mother, stunning in a designer silk dress, was captivating an audience of other mothers of the bride, undoubtedly reciting Chloe's life achievements for the umpteenth time. My father, looking sharp in his bespoke tuxedo, was engrossed in a discussion with Chloe's prospective father-in-law about stock portfolios and yacht club memberships. Alex, my cousin Mark, came over with that familiar patronizing grin I recalled from our youth. There you are, lurking in the shadows as always. My mom mentioned you'd finally returned to town. What has it been? 5 years since we last saw you. Something to that effect, I answered, my tone deliberately neutral. So, what are you busy with these days? Still involved in that? What was it? Social services gig? Before I could formulate a reply, my Aunt Susan appeared at his side, her cheeks already rosy from wine. Oh my goodness, Alex, just look at you. She clutched my arm with the fervor of someone who'd had a few too many glasses of Chardonnay. You look so… well, are you still in that little apartment in Arlington? I'm doing all right, Aunt Susan. Good for you, dear. It's just so wonderful that you could get away from whatever it is you do to be here for Chloe's special day. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Between us, your mother was concerned you wouldn't be able to swing the cost of the plane ticket. The familiar prickle of their thoughtless barbs hit me, but I had learned to conceal it decades ago. My training at the farm had instilled in me the discipline to master my facial expressions, to never betray my true thoughts. It was a capability that had proven invaluable in debriefing rooms, and it seemed at family functions. I managed, I stated plainly. Mark let out a chuckle. Well, at least you're not hitting up Dad for cash anymore, right? Remember that time after graduation when you were broke and had to bunk with Mom and Dad? That was a rough patch. I was 22, I said. Yeah, but Chloe was already an associate at the investment bank by then. She always had her life in order. He took a long pull from his craft beer. Speaking of which, what is it you actually do now? Mom mentioned something about a government position. I work for the federal government, yes. Susan's eyes gleamed with the sort of unkind curiosity I'd witnessed countless times as a child. Oh, like for the IRS or the Park Service? Something of that nature. Well, it's good you found stable employment. Government jobs have terrific benefits, even if the salary isn't much. She patted my arm in a gesture that felt less like a congratulation and more like a commiseration. At least you'll have a solid pension waiting for you when you retire. I watched Chloe from across the room, resplendent in her rehearsal gown, encircled by friends and well-wishers. She met my gaze and waved, her smile sincere but preoccupied. We had drifted apart over the years, not due to a single dramatic event, but from the gradual separation that occurs when two people embark on entirely different life journeys. She had chosen the secure path: law school, a corporate career, marriage to another professional, a house in a gated community. I vanished into a reality she could not fathom even if she tried. The fact was, I had been recruited by the agency during my final year of university. What my family perceived as an aimless academic pursuit of psychology was precisely what the organization had been searching for. Someone who could analyze people, decipher motivations, and assimilate into any environment. The flunking out, they recalled, had been meticulously staged. The agency required me to disappear, to become a forgettable person, someone my own relatives would write off and overlook. For 18 years, I had been an apparition, I had managed agents in Beijing, pursued extremists through the deserts of the Sahel, and spent 3 years embedded within a Southeast Asian syndicate. I had protected lives, thwarted attacks, and accomplished things that would never appear in any official record. My family believed I was a government administrator. The President of the United States had personally affixed a medal to my chest just 6 months prior. Alex seems to be getting by. I overheard my mother say to Mrs. Davenport, Chloe's future mother-in-law. They were standing near enough for me to catch every word. He has a government job now. Nothing glamorous, but it's steady. That's lovely, Mrs. Davenport answered politely. Which department? Oh, I'm not really sure of the specifics. Something administrative, I believe. You know how those government positions are. A lot of paperwork, not a great deal of responsibility, but at least he's finally standing on his own 2 feet. Mrs. Davenport nodded with sympathy. Well, not everyone can possess Chloe's ambition. Some individuals are simply destined for more modest lives. I felt my phone vibrate against my side, a particular sequence that made my heart rate increase. 3 quick pulses, a pause, then 2 longer ones. High-priority communication. I moved away from Mark and Susan, who were now comparing their children's private school accolades, and checked the encrypted message. Asset is secure. Intel confirmed. Departure in 6 hours. I gazed at the screen for a long moment. Asset is secure signified that Ivan Petrov, the Russian arms trafficker I had been hunting for 2 years, was at last in FBI custody. Intel confirmed meant the intelligence he had supplied about a planned assault on the consulate in Vienna was legitimate. Departure in 6 hours meant I would be on a jet to Europe before dawn, commanding the team that would stop God knows how many innocent people from being killed. But in this moment, I was supposed to be Alex the administrator. Alex the letdown. Alex who couldn't purchase a plane ticket without causing his mother to worry. Is everything all right? Chloe materialized by my side, her expression filled with concern. You look like you just received some bad news. Work matter, I said, putting the phone back in my pocket. It's nothing important. She smiled and squeezed my arm. I'm so happy you're here, Alex. I know we don't communicate as often as we ought to, but having my big brother here means the world to me. For a second, the usual sense of guilt washed over me. Chloe was unaware of the lies, the carefully crafted mediocrity that had shielded both of us for nearly 2 decades. She loved the brother she thought she knew, the one who was quietly struggling, who needed sheltering from the harshness of a competitive world. She had no clue that I had spent the last month in Belarus, that I was fluent in 6 languages, or that there were currently 3 separate governments that would offer millions for my capture. I wouldn't have missed it, I told her, and I was sincere. The dinner carried on with the expected cadence of family events. Toasts were proposed, cringeworthy anecdotes were recounted, and the photographer documented every moment for the archives. I smiled at the right times, laughed at my uncle's old jokes, and deflected inquiries about my personal life with well-honed skill. It was during the main course that the situation shifted. I was toying with my sea bass when I observed a disturbance near the entrance. The manager was speaking in low, urgent tones to a man in a conservative suit. A man whose posture and presence immediately identified him as law enforcement. My training engaged, automatically processing the details. Tailored suit, a subtle protrusion under his left arm, the systematic way his eyes scanned the room. Federal agent, no doubt. The only questions were which agency and what he was doing here. The man's gaze locked with mine across the hall, and I detected a flash of recognition. He said something brief to the manager, then started heading toward our table. Every fiber of my being urged me to leave, but I remained in my seat, my expression a carefully constructed mask of polite interest. Pardon me, the man said upon reaching our table. I'm searching for Alex Thompson. The chatter at our table ceased abruptly. Every eye shifted to me, then to the federal agent standing next to my chair. I'm him, I said, my voice even. He presented his credentials. FBI, just as I'd thought. Agent Miller, FBI. Sir, I must speak with you privately. It's urgent. My mother's face had turned ashen. FBI, Alex, what is happening? Are you in some sort of trouble? I'm certain it's a simple misunderstanding, I replied, beginning to rise. No misunderstanding, sir, Agent Miller stated. his voice projecting across the suddenly hushed dining room. Deputy Director Thompson, we require your presence in the command center at once. The Vienna situation has escalated. The words lingered in the air like gunpowder smoke. Deputy Director Thompson, the title I had earned through 18 years of service, sweat, and sacrifice. The title my family had never heard because it was classified at the highest security levels. Chloe's fork fell onto her plate with a clatter. Deputy Director? Agent Miller seemed perplexed by the stunned expressions around him. Sir, the director dispatched me personally. The asset's intelligence was accurate. They've advanced the timeline. We need to coordinate with Vienna Station immediately. My mother was staring at me as if I had sprouted a second head. Alex, what is he talking about? Deputy Director of what? The Central Intelligence Agency. Ma'am, Agent Miller answered helpfully. Deputy Director Thompson runs the European Operations Division. The silence that ensued was profound. I heard my Aunt Susan's wine glass slip from her grasp and shatter on the hardwood floor. My father's jaw was working, but no words came out. Mark looked as though someone had just informed him that the law of gravity was now optional. That's impossible, my mother whispered. Alex works in... He does administrative work. Agent Miller now looked genuinely baffled. Ma'am, Deputy Director Thompson has been with the agency for 18 years. He's a recipient of the Distinguished Intelligence Cross, the Intelligence Star, and the Intelligence Commendation Medal. He's testified before congressional committees, briefed 3 presidents, and... That's enough, I said quietly, but the authority in my voice sliced through his recitation like a scalpel. Agent Miller fell silent at once, recognizing the tone of a man used to being obeyed without question. I scanned the table at the faces of my family. Shock, disbelief, and an emotion that could have been fear. These people, who had written me off, pitied me, and treated me like a charity case for nearly 20 years, were now truly seeing me for the first time. I have to go, I said, my voice firm despite the racing of my pulse. Chloe, I'm sorry. I'll try to get back for the wedding. Alex, wait, Chloe began, but I was already in motion. As I headed for the exit with Agent Miller, I could hear the burst of voices behind me. My mother demanding answers. My father shouting my name. Susan asking if anyone else had known. But it was Mark's voice that rang out the clearest. Did he just say he briefed the president? Outside, Agent Miller escorted me to a black SUV with federal license plates. My apologies about that, sir. I had no idea your family was unaware of your position. It's classified, Agent Miller. My cover depended on them not knowing. Yes, sir, I see that now. He held the passenger door open for me. The situation in Vienna. Brief me on the way to the airfield, I said, slipping back into the familiar cadence of command. And Miller, the next time you have to extract me from a family gathering, we'll use the food poisoning excuse. It's far less dramatic. He cracked a smile as he started the ignition. Copy that. Sir? As we departed from the country club, I caught a glimpse of my family through the window. They were still at the table, still gazing at the empty seat where I had been, still struggling to reconcile the Alex they thought they knew with the man who had just exited their lives and strode into the night. My phone vibrated again, this time displaying flight information and intelligence reports. In 6 hours, I would be airborne, heading toward a crisis that could alter the geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. By the following evening, I would be in a secure room with world leaders and intelligence directors, making choices that would impact millions. But for now, driving through the Boston night toward my real life, I permitted myself a single moment of gratification. After 18 years of being misjudged, dismissed, and pitied, they finally knew who I was. The expression on my mother's face when Agent Miller said Deputy Director would be etched in my memory for a long time. It wasn't a cruel satisfaction I felt, but something more profound. The quiet vindication of a man who had borne the burden of other people's diminished expectations for far too long. My family would likely spend the remainder of the evening attempting to process what they had learned. They would call my old college acquaintances, scour the internet for any sign of my actual career, and place frantic calls to relatives to ask if anyone had ever suspected. They would discover nothing. The agency had, of course, ensured that. Chloe's wedding would proceed in my absence. She would offer excuses to the guests, attempting to explain something she didn't grasp herself. But perhaps with time, she would come to understand that her disappointing older brother had been protecting her all along, protecting all of them by allowing them to exist in a world where the greatest concern was which prep school to select or what model of car to purchase. As the SUV merged onto the highway toward the airfield, I opened my laptop and started to review the Vienna intelligence briefs. Even Petrov's information had indeed been spot on. The attack was slated for 800 local time, just 18 hours from now. The objective was the embassy's morning staff briefing, when all senior personnel would be gathered in a single room. I had a job to do, lives to protect, a crisis to avert. But for the first time in 18 years, I wasn't doing it as Alex the disappointment, Alex the underachiever, Alex who couldn't afford a plane ticket. I was doing it as Deputy Director Thompson, and that made all the difference.